Nobody showed up to my graduation. Not a single familiar face in the crowd. My name rang out over the speakers, but the seats saved for family stayed empty. Sunlight gleamed off the cold metal chairs. I smiled for the picture anyway, acting like it didn't hurt. 3 days later, my mom's text popped up, "Need $200 for your sister's sweet 16. No congrats, just a demand." So, I sent $1 with a note saying congrats. Then I changed the locks. For the first time, my apartment was quiet, but not for long. The day of my graduation was meant to be the one where I finally felt noticed. The stadium sparkled in the May sun, a sea of navy gowns and happy families waving their phones. When my name boomed out, Camila Reed, Master of Data Analytics, I looked up automatically, scanning the front rows. The family reserved section stared back, empty and shiny under the lights. Not even a hint of where my parents should have sat. I forced a grin for the photo, gripping my diploma too hard, my face hurting from faking it. All around, laughter exploded like confetti. Students hugged their parents. Friends cried over flowers. I stood alone next to some stranger's family getting snaps, my smile fading as the camera clicked. After, I hung around the courtyard, scrolling my phone to seem busy. Ruby, my classmate, spotted me and squealed, "You did it." Her parents took pics of us smiling big. She looked around the crowd. "Where's your family? Running late?" I lied. The lie slipped out easy. Years of practice. By the time I hit the parking lot, the sky was turning golden. Balloons bobbed over car roofs. Kids yelled, horns honked. I sat in my old Civic and watched from behind the wheel. For a moment, I pictured them coming toward me, Mom waving, Avery in her sparkly sneakers, Dad with flowers. Then the image faded under the roar of engines starting up. Truth is, I shouldn't have been shocked. My parents skipped my college graduation too. Back then, Mom said Avery had finals. Dad didn't even call. It was always some excuse, always something smaller and flashier taking priority. I'd spent my teen years trying to earn their love like it was a prize, working 2 jobs, sending cash home, saying yes to every ask. At 16, I wore that brown Starbucks apron at dawn, serving caramel macchiatos to lawyers and nurses. Mom would text, "Thanks, honey. Avery needs piano lessons." Or, "She has a field trip, just a bit extra." Okay. The first time she said, "You're our pride," I believed it. I thought love meant appreciation. Now I know it meant duty. When I got into grad school, I told myself this degree would fix everything. That if I just succeeded enough, maybe she'd see me not as the backup, not as the reliable paycheck pretending to be a daughter, but as her equal. I didn't realize then that even winning could be twisted into another way to take from me. 3 days after the ceremony, with my cap and gown still hanging by the door, that text showed up on my phone. "Need $200 for your sister's sweet 16. No congrats, no questions about how it went, just numbers and that same quiet demand." I stared at the text for ages. And that was when something inside me snapped. Something small, worn out, and ignored for too long finally stood tall. I stared at that message so long, my phone dimmed and locked. $200. The exact amount sat there like an order, not a request. I should have been used to it by now. For years, money was how my family talked instead of love. But that day, it didn't roll off me like before. Maybe it was the quiet after graduation, the echo of all that clapping that wasn't for me. Maybe I'd just run out of excuses to keep paying for love that wasn't real. I opened my banking app, saw my savings, barely $3,000, and felt something toughen up inside. I typed in $1, added a note, "Congrats," and hit send. For a long minute, I just sat there, the word "send" glowing on the screen. Then I opened the drawer by the front door, grabbed the spare key my mom insisted on for emergencies, and tossed it in the trash. That night, I called a locksmith. He showed up an hour later, an older guy with a gentle voice and tools that clinked like wind chimes as he worked. The new lock snapped into place, solid and final. When he left, I stood in the doorway a bit, breathing in the faint smell of oil and metal. It was the first real boundary I'd ever set in my life. The next day, sunlight flooded my small apartment. I made coffee, watched the steam rise, and for the first time, I didn't cringe at the quiet. It was mine. No one could barge in. No one could demand anything. Peace had a sound. It was this, until the knocking started. Firm, steady, non-stop. I froze. It wasn't my landlord, Mrs. Patel, she always called first. When I peeked through the peephole, 2 uniforms filled the hallway. Denver police, one said, calm and professional. Miss Reed? I opened the door, heart pounding. Yes? The taller officer, a black man in his 30s, showed his badge. We got a call from your mother. She said you've been acting strange, changing locks, not answering calls, and she's worried you might hurt yourself. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so ridiculous it looped back to sad. She did what? I asked quietly. His eyes softened. We just need to make sure you're okay. Mind if we come in? I let them in. The place was spotless, coffee mug on the table, laptop open with my project on screen, diploma framed on the wall. I waved around. Do I look unstable to you? The officer's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Not even close, ma'am. He asked a few questions about work, stress, family. I answered straight. Just finished grad school. Applying for jobs. No health issues. Just setting boundaries. He nodded. We'll report it as no concern, but if your mom calls again, you can mention this visit. They turned to leave, and just before stepping out, he added, sometimes when folks start standing up for themselves, others freak out. Happens more than you'd think. When the door shut, I leaned against it, shaking, not from fear, but anger. My mom hadn't just crossed a line. She'd declared war on it. That night, I sat on the couch, the police report fresh in my inbox. I replayed years of manipulation, the way she'd guilt me into sending money, saying, family helps family, whenever I paused. It was always about control, not caring. I didn't know what she'd do next. Only that if she was willing to send cops to embarrass me, there was no limit. The quiet in my apartment didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like the calm before a storm, and I was tired of waiting to get hit. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, the city still hushed under a light fog. My phone sat face down on the table next to the police report. I hadn't heard from my mom since she sent them to my door. But I knew her quiet wasn't peace, it was planning. I made coffee and opened my laptop, planning to dive into job apps. Instead, I checked my banking app. A knot formed in my gut. 2 new credit checks stared back, Capital One and Discover. Both recent, both unknown. My chest squeezed. I hadn't applied for any cards. I pulled up my credit report. 2 accounts opened in my name. My social security number, my address, but not this address. My parents' house in Littleton. I froze. The balances were already rising. Thousands charged. Then I saw the purchases, Cherry Creek Events, Denver DJ Agency, Glam Studio. My mom's text hit me like a punch. Need $200 for your sister's Sweet 16. It wasn't to ask. It was a trap. I called the number on the statement, voice shaky but firm. This is Camila Reed. I need to report identity theft. The woman verified my info, paused, and said, this account was opened in person at our Littleton branch last month. Co-applicant, Linda M. Reed. For a second, everything stopped. The fridge hum, the clock tick, even my breath. Ma'am, she went on carefully, we'll flag this for fraud review. You'll get forms to fill out in 24 hours. When the call ended, I stared at the screen. It was all there, my mom's signature, her phone, her address. She hadn't just used me for cash. She'd pretended to be me to get it. I opened my voice recorder. In Colorado, one-party consent meant I could record our next call legally. I dialed her number. She answered after 3 rings, tone sharp. So, you're alive. Mom, I said evenly, I found 2 credit cards in my name, both linked to your address. Want to explain? She laughed, an empty, rehearsed sound. Oh, that? I was helping you build credit. You should thank me, paying for Avery's Sweet 16. Stop overreacting. It's family money. What's yours is ours. No, I said softly. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is under investigation. The silence was sudden, heavy, shocked. Then her quick breath. You wouldn't dare. I already did. I ended the call, saved the recording, and labeled it Boundaries. May 17, 2025. Outside, morning light poured across the floor, catching the edges of my diploma and the new lock. 2 proofs that I'd earned it all myself. And now, I was guarding it. For the first time, the quiet in my apartment felt strong. It wasn't the pause before a storm anymore. It was the storm, and I was holding the power. I met them at a diner in Highlands Ranch, neutral spot, halfway between their home and my calm. The kind of place with worn leather booths and coffee that never tastes fresh, but perfect for this, public, quiet, hard to yell in. They showed up 15 minutes late. Mom first, in a flowery dress and sunglasses like shields. Dad trailing, smaller than I recalled. Avery behind, phone in hand, typing away. The golden child didn't look up. Camila, Mom said sharply, sliding into the booth across from me. You really made us drive out here for dinner? We're not eating, I said. My voice surprised me, steady, cool. We're talking. The waitress poured coffee and vanished. I slid a brown folder across the table. 2 credit cards opened in my name. Capital One and Discover. Both tied to your address. Both used for Avery's Sweet 16. Mom's smile barely moved. Oh, that, honey? I did it for you. You need credit history. I was helping. Helping? I said softly. You faked my signature. She waved it off. Don't get dramatic. It's family. You've always been so ungrateful. Think the world doesn't know who paid for your school? I laughed, a sharp bark that turned heads in the diner. You mean me? I paid with every paycheck, every extra shift, every loan you pushed while using my college fund for Avery's prom dress. Avery groaned. Here we go again. I turned to her. That silver dress you wore to your party? You danced in it on a card in my name. Enjoy the attention. Her eyes flicked away. Mom said you agreed. Mom's voice cut in. Enough. You don't talk to your sister like that. I didn't steal from you, Camila. I borrowed for the family. You stole my identity, I said quieter. You called the cops on me for changing locks. You tried to make me look crazy to keep control. That stops today. Dad finally spoke, voice small. Sweetheart, your mom just got carried away. Let's fix this quietly. I pushed the folder closer. No fixing it quietly. The bank knows. There's an investigation. Mom's eyes shot up, color fading from her face. You did what? I reported the fraud. Accounts are frozen. Bank has your signature, phone, address. You'll hear from them soon. The silence after was thick, almost tasty. Even the diner's buzz quieted, like the air was eavesdropping. You'll regret this, she hissed. You're ruining this family over a mix-up. No, Mom, I said, standing. You ruined it when you decided my name meant more to you than my love. I left cash for my coffee and walked out before she could reply. Outside, the air smelled like rain. I sat in my car a long time, staring at my reflection in the rearview. My hands shook, but my chest felt light, hollow in a way that could fill with peace. That night, Cherry Creek sparkled in purple and silver. The big night for Avery's Sweet 16. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I knew how it'd end. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. Miss Reed, a sharp female voice said, "This is Lauren Stein, legal rep for Capital One in Colorado. Calling to let you know we've escalated your fraud report. Our team worked with local police to check transactions tonight at Cherry Creek events. You don't have to be there, but we wanted you informed." My throat tightened. "You're sending cops to the venue?" "Yes, ma'am. Standard process. We'll record and confirm charges." I thanked her, hung up, and leaned back. Through my open window, faint music floated from downtown. A party about to fall apart. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Text from Avery, "Are you crazy? Cops just showed up." DJ stopped. Everyone's staring. Mom's losing it. Then another, "They're saying her name. Bank guy said your name. What did you do?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Meanwhile, across town, 2 officers walked into the glowing hall. No sirens, just calm power slicing through the neon. A banker followed, with a thick folder of receipts and papers. "Good evening," one officer said, voice steady. "We're here to check a credit card fraud report tied to this event. Charges on an account under Camila Reed." Whispers spread through the crowd. Phones came up. My mom froze by the cake table, color draining. "Must be a mistake," she said, voice shaky. The banker opened the folder, reading out loud. Main applicant, Linda M. Reed. Cosigner unauthorized. Records show misuse of someone's identity. Gasps. Someone muttered, "Isn't that her daughter's name?" Mom's lips opened, but nothing came out. Avery stood in the middle of the floor, eyes teary, whispering, "Mom, what did you do?" The officer stayed neutral. "No arrests tonight. Just docs for the bank's case, but we need receipt copies and ID checks." In the quiet that hit, the only sound was camera flashes flickering. Half the guests recording, half acting like they weren't. Minutes later, the DJ packed up. The banner Avery's Sweet 16, Born to Shine, sagged in the humid air. The room cleared in slow waves of murmurs and sympathy. By the time my mom stepped outside, rain fell soft and steady. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window, watching lightning flash over the city. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just let the quiet wrap me up. The sound of justice, quiet and complete. For years, I thought silence meant weakness. That night, I learned it meant winning. 3 days later, the storm cleared, but the mess lingered. An email came from Capital One, fraud case closed. Main applicant Linda M. Reed admits unauthorized use and agrees to repay $8,412 in full. One line. No sorry, no fuss, just truth on paper at last. Word got around quick. In a suburb like Littleton, gossip spreads faster than justice. Folks whispered in stores and at church, "Heard about the Reeds? Something with a bank at the Sweet 16. Avery's party clip, 30 seconds of mess, cops, and shock, hit 500,000 views before she locked her profiles. My dad got a quiet warning at work for using his office address for their mail and statements. For once, I didn't feel bad. I ignored their messages. Not from anger, from being worn out. I was done explaining the obvious. I filed FTC forms, froze my credit, closed every account my mom ever touched. Then I printed the final letter and pinned it on my wall next to my framed diploma and the locksmith bill. 3 papers side by side. Proof of hard work, proof of safety, proof of freedom. That night, I made tea, opened the window, let Denver's night air rush in. The city buzzed below, alive and indifferent. For the first time, the silence didn't sting. It healed. 6 months later, fall covered Denver, streets golden with leaves, air crisp and kind. I'd landed a new job at Nova Data Labs, around people who valued what I built, not what I could hand over. On my wall hung three things: my diploma, my new work badge, and the old lock I'd replaced. Together, they told my story, how I finally picked myself. If you've ever had to draw a line just to breathe, you're not alone. Tell me where you're watching from so I know how many of us finally changed the locks.